Well, hello there again, friends. Welcome back to the channel. Grab your cup of coffee because I'm Paulie and this is Paulie's Power Hour. Alright, so you might notice what's behind me. The Caddie. You guys love the Caddie. And I love the Caddie too, don't get me wrong. Her views have almost as many views as the Corvette videos. So thank you for that. And I'm sure she thanks you for that as well. But here's what we're doing today. So the Caddie, she's kind of been sitting for a little bit. Okay, well, I've been figuring my life out and getting some other things done and some things together. And now it's time to give her the attention she deserves. Okay, so here's my problem. Okay, so if you look in here, you'll see her strut mount is a little worn. And if you move her around, you see how that moves in there? And hear that squeak? Hang on. Alright, so that squeak is bad. The strut does move in here, and it makes a horrible clunking sound when I'm driving down the road and I hit a speed bump, a pothole, or any kind of unevenness in the road. The shock, when it flexes, it makes a noise. The strut, no good, especially not for a Caddie. So here's my solution. This is what you would call a loaded strut assembly. Okay, so there's actually a couple of pieces to this strut. Okay, when you do this, so there's the spring, the strut itself, and then the strut mount, which is what's bad on my car. I could probably get away with just changing the strut mount, but I have a feeling that it's been a while since these struts were changed because, I mean, you see this thing a rocking, you don't come a knocking. So there's a couple of ways you could do this. You can source this, just the strut, and you can change the spring by using the most dangerous tool in the world to compress your spring, take off that top nut, and remove this cap and mount and do it that way. And then you could also buy the mount. So you can source this as 3 separate pieces. I elected to go this way because I don't know how long it's been since the struts were changed on the car. It's a 91, and her springs are original. As far as I know, they're original from 1991. So why not just change the entire thing and be done with it? Later on, we'll go over how to take it all apart, maybe with one of the old ones. But this is the route I elected to go. So now, as always, we're going to go to the factory service manual. Alright, so DeVille Fleetwood, front suspension, front strut assembly. Okay, vehicle must have the front wheels aligned after strut assembly has been removed from the vehicle. We are going to do that. Notice this is important, and I'll go over this when I get under the car. The knuckle must be retained after the strut 2 knuckle bolts have been removed. Failure to observe this may cause ball joint and or drive axle damage. She is a front wheel drive car. Okay, and we'll go over that more in detail when we get in there. All right, remove or disconnect, cross brace bar assembly, 3 nuts, top strut assembly, raise vehicle, suitably support, lower vehicle slightly, so weight of the vehicle. Obviously, it goes without saying you don't want weight of the vehicle on the control arms, right? You want those to sag a little bit. Remove wheel and tire assemblies. Drive axle seal protector. Definitely don't have one of those, but we'll look at it. Disconnect front anti-lock brake sensor. Brake line bracket from strut. Strut to steering knuckle bolts. Strut assembly from vehicle. Easy as that. Knuckle must be retained after the strut 2 knuckle bolts have been removed. We said that earlier, right here. Okay, same warning repeated. That's how important this is. Refer to unit repair strut assembly in this section for unit repair, which we can do later. Notice care should be taken to avoid chipping or cracking the spring coating. So now we're installing your connecting strut, washer, crossbar brace, 3 strut to body nuts, 25 newton meters, 18 pound-feet, 28 newton meters, 21 pound-feet. Steering knuckle to strut assembly, brake line bracket to strut assembly, reconnect front anti-lock brake sensor for all right, cool. Tighten steering knuckle to strut assembly bolts to 180 pound-feet. Brake line bracket to 13 pound-feet. Remove your seal protectors, install the tire and wheel assemblies, raise vehicle slightly to allow removal of jack stands, remove jack stands, lower vehicle. Notice, important, again, it says it. It said it over here in the important section. And it says it here again. Vehicle must now have a front wheel alignment performed. All right, cool. Let's get her up in the air on jack stands and see exactly what this thing is talking about. Alright, she is safely on jack stands. Safety first, I always put my little wheel block behind the wheel, put my string, and then I also disconnected, or I pulled the fuse for the level control so the compressor's not running this whole time trying to raise her up. So let's get this wheel off on this side and see what the heck we're talking about. Now, I'm sure there's a special tool for doing this, but I like to take a little pry bar, wrap it in tape so I don't mar my surface, and that pops right out. Okay, so here we go. We obviously see I'm going to need brake hoses before too long. It's probably going to be one of the things I do when I get back to Pensacola with it. So here's what we're looking at now. So it said to disconnect the ABS sensor, which is here, okay, because that's obviously connected to the strut, and then remove this bolt, which takes this off. Okay, cool. Remove this bolt, which takes this off, right? And then these two come out, and then this will come away. Now, because it does say to get an alignment, one thing I am going to do is I'm going to kind of mark, just to get me back in the ballpark here, I'm going to mark where the strut is currently sitting, because this is an adjustment point. And here, and when I put the new strut assembly in, I am going to try and line it up as best I can. I'm still going to get an alignment, obviously, but this will get me by until I can get to the alignment shop, and I'm not going to damage my tires or anything. Oh, look, it's also time for sway bar bushings. So this is her drive axle, and obviously my boots are in good shape, and this is why you want to support this, because as soon as you take this off, this is going to sag, and if it sags too far down, it's going to put this at an odd angle, and it could damage the CV axle, and we don't want that at all. So I'm going to bring the jack in and support this. All right, and then up here it's 1, 2, 3. Here's my strut mount, and look at this. This is original. This is GM stuff. This is original, like, label underneath here. I don't think these have ever been changed. I know with 100% certainty that I never changed them when Sean owned the car, because I would have done it. So that tells me that these struts are original, probably from 1991. Cool. It's time to change them. Alright, so first step it says is to loosen these up. Alright, so obviously you can see there's a little bit of an adjustment here, it looks like. So just to be sure, I marked where these go, and then if we go back down here, I made a line along here and here where this is going to go. So I loosened the 3 nuts up top. Now we're going to do the ABS and my 2 brackets here. Okay, so I got my top nuts pretty close to where they were. I mean, pretty darn close actually. As you can see, these old ones I don't need. They can go on the old strut. Now I did run into a little bit of an issue. You'll see that this is a different, slightly different angle than right here. This actually looks to be a little bit thinner. So when it comes to my witness marks here, I got it as best I could along the curve. Like I said, this is just so I'm close. I'm trying to get this to the alignment shop. Well, I will be getting this to the alignment shop ASAP, but that's what your goal is right now, is to get it to the alignment shop, right? As long as I'm not driving down the road with the wheel all crazy and stuff, we'll be okay. So now, brake line and ABS, which I definitely need ABS sensors, but my ABS doesn't work anyway because I think one of my rear sensors is bad, but what are you gonna do? All right, so that wraps up that side. Tires back on. Everything's lined up, tight, torqued, as you saw. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna set up the camera for a time lapse, and we're gonna knock out the other side the same way we did the driver's side, and then we're gonna take a look and kind of dissect the strut brace, or the strut mount, to see exactly how bad it was. So let's go. Alright, so as you can see, she's on the ground, she's running, and as best as I tried, the tires are a little wonky. That's okay, because tomorrow morning, I'm taking her in for an alignment. But, in the meantime, we're going to go on a quick test drive just up and down the street to make sure we don't hear any funky noises and that everything's still tight. So far, I mean, I do have to turn the wheel a little bit to compensate, but just up and down the street, so far so good. We're not driving her too far. Actually, let's drive her to the end of the block. But what's most important is that I don't hear any clunking noises anymore when I, go over bumps or anything. I'd have heard, hollow bumping noises by now. And there you have it. There's struts on a DeVille. I had an appointment this morning, this is the next day, to get it aligned, but they didn't have time to get me in, so not aligned yet. So no big deal. I'm just not going to drive it until I get it aligned and be responsible for once in my life. So there you go. Hope that helps. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff that helps the channel. You guys keep it between the ditches and you come back and see. All right, so as you can see, she's on the ground. All right, so as you can see, she's on the ground, she's running, and as best as I try, the tires are a little wonky. That's okay, because tomorrow morning, I'm taking her in for an alignment. But in the meantime, we're gonna go on a quick test drive just up and down the street to make sure we don't hear any funky noises and that everything's still tight. So far, I mean, I do have to turn the wheel a little bit to compensate, but just up and down the street, so far so good. We're not driving her too far. Actually, let's drive her to the end of the block. But what's most important is that I don't hear any clunking noises anymore when I, go over bumps or anything. I'd have heard, hollow bumping noises by now.